I dated a man named Michael a couple of years back. We met at a bar, and after talking and hanging out for a few months, we began dating. We dated for about 3 months, and it was obvious that we just didn't click. We hardly saw eye to eye on anything and would often argue. We ended up breaking up, but Michael was a little bit bitter about it. However, we agreed to stop communicating with each other. But only about 2 months after our breakup, I started to receive texts from a number I didn't recognize. They would say mean things to me, like calling me bad names or saying that I'm a bad person. I figured right away that it had to be Michael, and I replied to him, telling him to stop. He did not stop, however, and every time I would block the number, a new one would text me. After a while, the text stopped, and instead I got a photo sent to me. It was a photo of my house. When I saw this, I responded that if he continued, I would be going to the police. The photos did not stop. I got several more over the next couple of days. One was of my car, another was of my house from a different angle, and the last one was the most alarming. It was me sitting on my couch, taken from outside my window. I wanted to report Michael, but I had no actual proof that it was him, just suspicion. I debated for a few days what I should do. I know I should have went to the police with all the weird texts looking back, but at the time I just didn't think that I had to, as creeped out as I was. But then the texts seemed to stop. After a few weeks went by, and I didn't receive anything strange at all, I figured Michael, or whoever it was finally done messing with me. I was very relieved and tried to forget all about it. Then one day, when I went to check my mail, I saw a package at my doorstep. It was about the size of a shoebox. It was brown and had nothing on it except for my name written in a large, creepy-looking font. I instantly got the creeps. I took the package and went inside. I didn't know if I should open it or not, but my curiosity got the better of me. I opened the package and looked inside. There was a large stack of photos. When I looked at them, I saw that they were all of me. Some were my school pictures from when I was a child, and others were pictures of me from the internet, such as my Facebook and Instagram photos. But the most creepy ones of all were the ones of me walking down the street or in the grocery store. This was too much for me. I immediately took the box and walked outside to get in my car and drive to the police. I drove all the way there, feeling paranoid and looking over my shoulder the whole time. After I got there, I felt much safer. The police ended up questioning Michael, and he admitted that he was the one sending the photos and stalking me. This all started back in 2016. That's when I met a guy named Duncan on a dating app. We talked for a very short time online before he wanted to meet up. After only hanging out a few times, we started dating. I will save a lot of time and just say that things didn't work out at all between us, and I ended it. All in all, we dated for about 2 months. The breakup didn't go very well, but afterwards I didn't see or communicate with Duncan for a while. He deleted me from all social media that we had each other on. But about a month later, he texted me. He was saying that he wanted to see me again and that he deserved another chance. I was not willing to do that because I had already moved on. He didn't stop texting me, he even started calling. After several days of this, I had to block his number, but that didn't stop him. He started contacting me on social media again, which caused me to block him on basically all platforms. I thought this was the end of it, and I didn't hear from him for about a week. But then I started to see him around town. I saw him when I was at the grocery store, something that had never happened before. He appeared to just be shopping and not even know that I was there. I quickly finished and checked out. However, when I had just left the store and started walking towards my car, I heard his voice shouting at me from behind. I knew it was him, and I didn't have any interest in talking to him. He kept shouting my name, making a scene, until I reached my car and drove away. I felt like it was no coincidence that he was shopping there at the same time as me. I think he knew I would be there somehow, and that's why he went. Things got even worse after that. Just a couple of days later, he showed up at my work. I worked at a nail salon, and as I was working, he walked right in and said that he needed to talk to me. He tried to stick around after I said I didn't want to talk to him, especially when I was at work, and he only left after we threatened to call the police. Finally, the last time I saw him was when he showed up at my house. It was late at night, almost midnight, and he started out by just knocking on my door. When I realized who was there, I decided not to answer it, but he kept knocking. He started knocking louder until he was pounding on my door. Then he started yelling, saying that he knew I was home because he could see my car outside. After he was pounding on the door and yelling for a good 5 minutes, I yelled out that I would call the police if he didn't leave, but that didn't stop him. He ended up pulling out some type of heavy object that he had with him. I didn't get a good look at it, but then he started banging the front door window with it. That's when I called the police. It didn't seem like the glass would hold up very long, and it didn't. I had called the police by the time the glass broke and Duncan made his way inside. When he reached me in the living room, he just started yelling at me for several minutes. He was angry, but luckily, before he did anything else, the police got there. I had to get a restraining order against him. I haven't seen him since then, but sometimes I worry that he will do something like that again. I am a 30-year-old female. This story occurred just a few months ago. However, it all started about 7 years back when I met a man named Dave and started dating him. At the time, I was fresh out of college and new to my job. After dating Dave for several months, he ended up moving in with me. Dave was tall, had dark brown hair, and usually had a slight beard. He was a quiet man, but very nice. We lived together for a couple of months, but then he started drinking heavily and would often get angry. We started to have many fights, and eventually we both agreed to break up. He moved out, and I didn't hear from him again. One day I got off of work early, and when I arrived home at my apartment, I went into the kitchen to get some water. As I did, I thought I heard my door open and shut. I felt the chill go down my spine. In my apartment, when you're in the kitchen, you can't see the front door. I slowly moved to the corner and leaned my head around. I didn't see anybody. I walked out and began to check the apartment, one room at a time. Each one appeared to be empty. I was a little spooked, but eventually I was able to settle down. A few days went by, and strange things started happening. Doors that I shut would be open when I got home, or things would seem to be out of place. I was afraid I might be going crazy. Some things in my house even seemed to be missing. Then one night, I awoke in the middle of the night. I opened my eyes and sat up to see a man standing at the end of my bed facing me. It was really too dark to see, but based on the figure, I could tell it was a man. Other than that, I couldn't tell any details. I laid there frozen with fear. After standing at the end of my bed for what felt like 5 minutes, but in reality was probably 30 seconds, the man walked out of my room. I heard him slowly walk out and shut the door behind him and leave. As soon as I did, I got up, locked the door, and went around my apartment looking to see if anything was stolen or if any windows were unlocked. Then I called the police. They arrived and basically just took down information. After that, I was extremely careful to always keep my doors and windows locked. About 2 nights later, once again, I woke up in the night. But this time, I heard someone moving around in my apartment outside my bedroom. I immediately called the police. I tried to talk as quietly as I could to them. They said someone was on their way. I got up as fast as I could, ran to my bedroom door, shut it, and locked it. When I did, I heard the man come to the door and try to open it. He tried for a few seconds, and then he began to pound at the door. I backed away and went to hide in my closet. My closet was very small, but I was able to fit in it, being just 5'2". After a couple of minutes, I heard the door open and footsteps come in the room. Then I heard a man call out my name. I recognized the voice. It was my ex-boyfriend, Dave. He said he knew I was hiding and to come out. He said he was sorry and did not want any trouble. Just then, I heard a pounding on the front door and someone shout police. I didn't know what to do. To my relief, Dave then walked out of the room into the front door and opened it for the police. As it turns out, Dave still had a key to my apartment after all these years. I had forgotten all about it. He ended up going homeless and recently used his key to help himself to my apartment. He basically lived there when I was at work, so I did not see him. I hope he gets the help he needs and is able to get his life back on track. I am a female and in college. Back in high school, I dated a boy named Tom. He was a junior, and I was a sophomore when we met. We started talking a lot, and he seemed like a pretty cool guy. After about a month, we started dating. I felt like we kind of rushed into a relationship, and before long he started acting differently. He would be controlling, and just after a month I ended up breaking up with him. He was pretty upset and I felt bad, but it was at the end of the school year, so when summertime came, I didn't have to see him for a while. The next school year he was a senior, and I was a junior. I tried my best to avoid him. We didn't cross paths much, and for a while we had no communication at all. But about halfway through the year, he started talking to me in the halls a little. He was nice at first, but after a while he started to get weird, and then he asked me out once again. I said no. That made him upset, and after that, he didn't talk to me for a long time. That is until the end of the school year. Shortly before he would be graduating, he started texting me again. He would say things like he wanted me back, and I never should have broken up with him. I ended up blocking his number as well as blocking him across all social media platforms and went on with my life. A couple of times throughout the next year, some of my friends would tell me that Tom asked about me and how I was doing, and if I had a boyfriend, things like that. This was pretty annoying to me, as it had been over a year since our breakup, and I was hoping he would be over it by now. I didn't hear anything of him for a while. Then, during the summer after I graduated high school, I was outside one day when I noticed a car drive very slowly down our street. It came to a stop in front of my house. I looked, and I recognized the driver as Tom. I immediately went inside and hoped he would get the hint that I did not want to talk to him. He sat there for about a minute and then drove away. I was glad to see him leave, but it made me pretty uncomfortable knowing that he drove all the way to my house for some reason. That night, as I was in my room at about midnight, I got a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer, but they kept calling again and again. Finally, I answered it. I heard a voice on the line telling me that they needed to talk to me. I immediately recognized the voice as Tom's. I hung up the phone and blocked the number. Not even a minute later, I heard a banging on my window. I looked and saw Tom right outside. I quickly ran to find my dad, and luckily he was still awake. He came into my room just in time to hear glass breaking and Tom climbing in the window. Tom had a bat in his hand. He started to run towards us. My father told me to call the police, and he shut the door and held it closed. Tom remained in my room and then ran back for the window to leave. When the police arrived, Tom was gone, but we knew exactly who he was, and the police did not take long to track him down. I got a restraining order against him, and I hope that he never bothers me again. So to start things off, I'm a female and was 19 at the time this story first began. This happened at my first real job. As the months went on, one of my coworkers told me a guy named Chris thought that I was cute. At this point in my life, I had never really had a boyfriend or any attractive or normal guys show interest in me, besides going to proms and group dates, so I was curious. I remember looking across the store and seeing him. He was super short and skinny, had green eyes and auburn hair. I immediately told my coworker he wasn't my type and moved on. A week later, he began to flirt with me, and so I flirted back, and that's when I fell for him. At first, he was funny, and we would have bantered back and forth. He was my first kiss. At the time, I told him I wasn't ready, as I had thought in my head how and where I wanted it to be. But he kissed me anyway at midnight by my car. It wasn't anything like I'd imagined or wanted. It was awkward and rushed. I felt upset, but got over it. Just a short while later, we were hiding in the back room at work and kissing. The rush of trying to be quick and not get caught by our boss was intoxicating and exciting. Actually being excited to go to work just to see him. Then I began to notice the bad things. He would trip me while at work, kicking the back of my heels and make them bleed, ruining my shoes by stomping them, pushing me around and smacking me, ripping my hair out, ignoring me for hours, and giving me the silent treatment so I'd beg for attention or do things to make him talk to me. I justified it all as him flirting and being rough, and that it was my fault he was acting this way. Then he started telling me I was stupid and no one else would want me, and how I need to not wear so much makeup unless we're on a date, because I shouldn't be trying to look good for other men, and I'm lucky he gives me attention. He would make me miss work shifts to drive him and his friends around, lying to my parents about where I was and who I was with, and I did anything he wanted me to, no matter the cost to me. I was blinded by what I thought was love for him. I thought this was all normal, and since he wasn't Mormon, I couldn't tell my parents I was even with him. It was a secret that I kept. One time we were in my car at night, in the back seat, messing around, and he went too far. I told him to stop, and he ignored me. I felt disgusted and sad. So I ended up seeing someone else, and he found out, and we had a screaming match in our break room at work. Him telling me I'm a slut and shouting he's mad just because I wouldn't do stuff with him and did with someone else. All our coworkers were sitting in there while eating and shocked, and I had no shame. I wanted him and everyone to know I hated him. After that, I moved on and found a new job, so I no longer saw him or talked with him. I had messaged him on Snapchat. He coaxed me into saying I loved him. He screenshotted it and blocked me. I felt heartbroken and devastated. 5 months later, he messaged me on Facebook out of the blue, asking for a ride. I saw the message pop up and felt a rush of panic, yet surprised that his name was on my screen. I chose to ignore him, which was so hard for me as I had been blocking and unblocking him and looking at his page and hoping he would reach out. But I stayed strong and ignored him. I felt good about it and was proud of myself. It took so much willpower not to message him back. I then told my friends about Chris and how he was abusive to me. A lot of the people I told didn't believe me and said I just wanted attention and that he was a nice guy. Then one day I saw a news article saying that my ex was going to jail for attempted murder. He actually tried to kill someone by stabbing them and leaving them for dead. Thank God the person survived. But I was shocked. I felt a wave of evil come over me, yet calm. I cried and was thankful I ignored his message. I found out at the time he messaged me, he was actually on the run from the police. If I had helped him, I could have gotten in trouble as well. I then sent the article to all the people that didn't believe that he hurt me. Look at this, he tried to murder someone. As soon as they read my message, I blocked them. Unfortunately, he only got 2 years for good behavior and is free now. When I found out he was being released, I was terrified. I'm grateful I have my now husband to protect me and keep me safe. I haven't seen my ex around town at all, and from what I've heard, he's married and having a baby. I can't help but be mad that he's living a happy life now after ruining mine. I struggle every day with depression and guilt over him and all the evil he brought upon me, taking my innocence and good view of the world and the people in it. It just goes to show that you can never be too careful and to trust your gut. It just might save you one day.